Back with more Buffy. This is episode 20 of season 7, and here we are in the final stretch. This is scary. It really hit me when I sat down to record this episode, thinking, oh my god, like, really not going to be doing this many more times. 3 episodes left, and yeah, it's a mixture of emotions, as always. I was kind of getting a bit choked up and sad just sitting to do this one, so for episode 22, screwed. But either way, I'm excited to see where this season's going to go next. Last episode. You'd think I'd be over it by now, wouldn't you? It's been a little while, because we finished off Angel season 4. You'd think I'd be over it, but it's her fucking house. Anyway, Buffy got kicked out, so I can only assume this episode is about Dawn getting a job, so that she can actually keep affording to pay the bills, so that it can actually stay the house of the Summers people. Otherwise all those fuckers are going to have to leave, aren't they? So I assume that's what this episode's going to be about, because that makes the most sense if you're going to kick Buffy out, doesn't it? But yeah, salt aside, I've salted your food. I'm really intrigued to see what's going to be happening next, with Buffy kind of on the outskirts of what's going on. You know, how is Faith's leadership going to go? What are they going to do to explore that? Is Rona going to die is my big pressing question, and I'm hoping the answer's fucking yes, please. And yeah, we'll just see what's going to be going on next. But, you know, we're still a few episodes away from, like, I assume the final battle will be the final episode. I could be clearly wrong. But I think there's just going to be a bit more, like, build-up, maybe focusing on some character stuff, and just amping up the tension even more than they already have, if that's possible. We'll have to wait and see. But regardless, I am excited to be getting into the final few episodes. So let's get into the next one.
Now that Buffy's not here, we finally have some say in how and when we lose our necks.
Maybe you don't have to be...
As long as you lose them.
I just wonder if those of us who've been here longer should have more of a say.
You know, this wouldn't be so chaotic.
Oh yeah, this is much better.
She's gonna be
For
fine.
example, once
Really, it's for the best.
Anyway, one of those you countries.
For her?
We should catch some sleep and figure all this out in the morning.
Do we really have time to waste?
Look, I understand you guys are
Been wasting time arguing for God knows how long. So they're waiting to be cool now. Could have done this. Oh, let's talk in the morning when it's terms of like kicking Buffy out of their own house. I'm so sorry. I'm not actively rooting for them all to die, just so you know. I'm on Buffy's side, but I'm not actively rooting for them all to die, just most of them. I suppose there are a lot of abandoned houses from people leaving she could stay in.
Don't move.
Oh, this is not one of
Get
them.
out of my house.
Not your town. Not anymore.
Oh, damn. I mean, you could have just found an empty house. I'm not sure how I feel about that, but fine. I really thought I'd gotten over this, but I'm angry all over again. Enjoying this theme while I still can.
All the evil in town wants us dead.
I don't want to die.
Don't worry.
Not all the
Far
evil.
more likely you'll live
I'm not evil, but I want you
to watch
dead.
your friend.
You thinking of attacking the Bringers?
Maybe, or okay, we could kidnap one.
And what? Hold it ransom?
Yeah, I'll get the magazines and start ripping out the letters now. Dear Mr. First.
You wanted her to lead. Let her fucking lead.
Okay, I'm not sure this is such a good idea.
Oh, what a fucking surprise.
So Kennedy, back the hell off and let me do my job, all right?
Mwah! Stupid people.
You're going to kill all of them. And everyone they know.
Oh.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Oh no, is she gonna die? Hang on, let me pretend to be sad and nervous. Like, oh. Aha! It's a trap!
I've been reading this old Turkish spellbook. There's an old conjuration that the ancient Turks used to communicate with the dying.
Oh yeah, I think I've read a translation of that.
There's a translation of it? Would this help us with Mr. Newton?
Yeah, I think so.
Might as well try
I
it.
just...
Hi.
Hi, everybody. I missed you guys a lot. Sorry it took so long to get...
We all got together and talked out some disagreements.
And stabbed her in the back.
Buffy decided that it would be best for all of us if she Took a little time off. A little breather.
Uh-huh. Been practicing that little speech long, have you?
Which means deep down you knew it was wrong.
Buffy,
Willow.
some time off right in the middle of the
Don't like being mad at her, but I'm mad at her.
You sad, sad, ungrateful traitors. Who do you think you are?
We're her friends. We just want.
Oh, that's ballsy of you. Now she surpassed you, and you can't handle it. She has saved your lives again and again. She has died for you.
Save you like a breath.
All right.
Oh, shit. Okay, well. That's not the way to go about
Sweet
things.
on her, aren't you?
This literally is doing no good for anyone.
What you wanted, didn't
We work as one to serve the first.
Okay, what do you?
Oh, he's speaking through Andrew.
Do for the first.
We will laugh at you as you die.
Oh. Oh.
Bananas? Feel used and violated, and I need a lozenge.
Sounds Katrina. Oh wait, you can't, can you? Being used and violated. I'm so salty. I'm sorry.
And it's not like they were wrong. Please leave.
They were at least partly wrong.
No, you were right. Buffy?
I don't feel very right.
Yeah, they've broken her spirit.
You're doing just fine.
What a shining review. Oh. Oh shit!
I'd say you're doing a bang-up job.
Get out.
Oh my god.
Who was my favorite character in Little Women? Meg. I know. Most people guess Beth, but Meg, she's such a proper young lady. Remember when Jo burned her hair?
I know what you're doing. It's not.
Jo is my
good.
favorite.
But
You were smart to kick her out.
that's not what we. Buffy got him this far.
Why are you protecting her? You think she cares about you? She nearly killed you, Faith.
It's different now.
But she didn't.
She'll destroy you. I'm just saying.
I mean, Faith was pretty good at destroying herself originally. I think she'll be fine.
No.
I love that they've revisited that pairing though. That's so good.
Eventually,
Just so tired.
they need you.
Apparently not. What's done is done.
Bloody chaos over there without you.
It is.
Yeah. It's there's a jump.
Has he ever made a noise more higher pitched?
I knew I was gonna lose some of them, and I didn't. You know what?
Well, you have the burden of the bigger picture.
I'm still making excuses. People are always trying to connect to me. I just.
And the ones that did betrayed you, so...
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. I'll know when I'm done saying it. Something pissed me off and I just...
That's me and my afterthoughts every time.
I've been alive a bit longer than you. And dead a lot longer than that. I've seen things you couldn't imagine. And done things I prefer you didn't. 100+ years. And there's only one thing I've ever been sure of. You. Hey, look at me.
Don't give me spuffy feelings right now.
I love what you are. What you do.
Mood.
How you try. I've seen your kindness and your strength. You're a hell of a woman. You're the one, Buffy.
I don't want to be the one.
Well, she's had 7 seasons of that shit.
Be this good looking and athletic. We all have crosses to bear.
Will you just hold me?
She wants someone literally on her side for once. That was very sweet and a very good speech.
That's exactly what the first does. Find your Achilles heel.
No, it just talked to me. What, it does a heal thing too?
It's a phrase.
He was like a dad to me.
Oh. It was my mother when it came to me. Right down to the perfume.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So pissed off at myself.
The
I knew it was
evilest
right.
sensible smell.
First is telling me to worry about her, and I just wish she was here. couple hours, I'm gonna lead these girls into some serious crap. Am I out of line?
Oh boy.
You're the leader.
Damn, son. I'm kind of here for that pairing though. I feel like there's something there. That gave me vibes of the Buffy and Spike scene earlier, but I feel like... Well, I hope those two aren't doing this. Really is Principal Wood, am I right?
The girls. Something not right. No.
Yeah, you're not very likable.
If I lose that control and let myself go, I could just go.
You're worried you're gonna turn into Big Bad Willow?
I mean, she did ground you before,
That's stupid.
when you were Warren.
You be a kite, and I'll be your kite string.
Sexy.
I should at least acknowledge the fact that some people might not want to listen to an a cappella concert of people, you know, moaning and groaning.
I love that they just eat ice cream.
Other people should just knock it off.
I think they probably are. I like that this feels just as intimate, but they're not actually having sex. And when they kicked Buffy out, they want all the fucking free beds they can get. Jesus. I've always wondered how, like, bloody hell, how they like write these scenes. Must be interesting. Oh, oh, oh!
I do enjoy your sermons.
And you're in me. Give me strength no man can have.
To feel. I want to feel.
It's the one thing you can't do.
I mean, is there some reason we should spy on Buffy?
We're just making sure she's okay. Those of you who are...
You know if she's
with me
okay
in
if you let her
Arsenal,
stay in her own
you know
fucking
who you
house.
are.
Hey, heard you got something in mind.
Oh boy.
Why'd they abandon all this stuff?
They didn't. Can't see what's going on, so I'm going to assume they're doing just fine. Leave the wine alone. Ah, clever. Oh. Oh! What an explosive ending. I'm gonna need that, Millie. Okay, another really good episode overall, a very solid one. I feel like there's so much to talk about though, lots going on. And it was a very horny episode, wasn't it? It wasn't just me. I mean, Where the Wild Things Are was kind of horny. This was very horny. But I guess if you think you're gonna die, what else is there to do but each other is, I guess, their mindset. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of a big thing through the episode though. Like the idea of intimacy, how far you go with it, the pros and cons of it, in a sense. You know, there's Spike and Buffy's history, very up and down, to say the least. And the scene with Willow and Kennedy, where Willow was kind of afraid of maybe losing control of something, and then, you know, evil. Stuff like that was kind of interesting. And the idea of someone who cares finding someone who can be on your side, finding that person to be intimate with, whether physically or emotionally, sometimes both. I think Buffy kind of found that with Spike in this episode. Wood and Faith found that quite literally in each other on both parts. There's also the idea of the first appearing as the mayor to Faith as well. It's kind of a big, in a twisted way, a very positive relationship that she had. She even said, you know, I kind of thought of him as a father. So having that on display was interesting, and to show through the mayor's guise, I guess, you know, that genuine care that he did have for Faith way back when. And that kind of Slayer, Watcher-esque relationship, father-daughter-esque relationship with those two compared to how Buffy and Giles currently are. And what Spike was going to say, you know, Giles, has he acted this way against Buffy because she's outgrown him. Is it that kind of thing? I don't think it is quite that. I feel like Giles just does believe it is the right thing to do, but I do... Yeah, I mean, I've already talked about my disappointment with everyone and how they reacted at the end of the last episode, and a lot of them did continue to piss me off, I won't lie. Was Rona in this episode? She was, like, not that much, didn't have a presence, so thank you. Kennedy pissed me off a lot this episode. I've been very neutral on her before. She's made a few comments, I'm like, oh, please. But she has also done some good for Willow, like in The Killer in Me. And I would say she probably did some good with her in this one. But just the way she just assumed, like, oh, well, now I'm going to have all these ideas. And she kind of was under the assumption that she was in charge and could spout all these ideas and stuff. And when Faith shot them down, she's like, oh, I thought it was going to be different with you. Like, you've known Faith for 5 minutes. Like, I will fully accept, you know, Buffy was not the perfect leader. I've already talked about this in the last episode. She did not allow herself to get to know all the girls, all the potentials. But in turn, I don't think they got to know Buffy. A lot of that is Buffy's fault, granted. But Kennedy could have been like, oh, Willow, tell me all about Buffy. Xander, tell me all about Buffy. What's she like? You know, I want to try and understand her, see if I can try and at least get through to her, make an attempt. But none of them did. So there they go, assuming everything about her and exactly what she's like. And like I said, I think at the most, sure, make someone else in charge for a bit if you're not agreeing with how Buffy's doing it. But kicking her out of her house was so fucking stupid, and I'm going to be angry forever about that, about everyone behind that decision. Man, it's just, you know, these shows often don't give us what we want, and that's kind of the point sometimes, and you're like, well, they'll work it out. But when the show is literally ending in 2 episodes, this isn't kind of how you want the characters to be. Because they're going to, like, what if they like patch things up in the last minute of the show, then it's done. You're like, well, I would like to have seen a lot more of that in these last moments I get to see these characters. It's just frustrating. It's a very frustrating situation, granted, and is interesting at the end of the day. I don't think Faith went about things that different from Buffy did. But she's kind of new to the idea as well. But I don't know what people kind of assuming would just, like, suddenly everything's going to be okay just because they got rid of Buffy out of the house now. Like, you're still going to have all these people coming after you, you're still going to do all these dangerous shit. It's just now you're going to blame someone else for it instead of Buffy and shift the blame on someone else. And, you know, the fact that they weren't always, like, training and stuff, you need a break, whatever, but they've just been standing around bitching all the time. I'm just retracing some of the stuff I said in the last reaction, but I just... very naive of them to think they weren't going to go back to squabbling, which they did, wasting time. As soon as Buffy was gone, they were arguing about how to go about things next. But yeah. There is some balance to it, because Buffy just, like, breaking into that guy's house and kind of just forcing him to leave when she could have just found another empty house. I thought that was a bit odd. Spike just starting the fight with Faith. I don't think that was necessary to go violence there. That seemed very bizarre, and no one was acting rationally there. Kennedy just is awful. I've seen a lot of hate for Kennedy in the comments. I've never quite got to that extent, like, oh my god, they really loathe her, why? This episode I could kind of see it, I will not lie. And yeah, just stuff like that. Willow, like, pretending to Spike that, oh, Buffy of her own accord, you know, decided it's for the best if she leaves. Like, if you're going to do this and get involved and stab your friend in the back, take some responsibility, Willow. You know I love you. But alongside that, the scene with her and Kennedy, when she was talking about, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could lose control. Maybe she is just like, well, you know, if I tell Spike the truth, exactly what went down here, you know, that could lead to a confrontation if I get into this big confrontation. Because the last time I did that, you know, I was kind of becoming evil, and I snapped and turned evil. Doesn't want to get herself in a big confrontation like that again until she needs to with the first. Maybe that would push her over the edge and she'd do something she regretted or something. Maybe that's why she kind of refrained from trying to actually tell Spike the truth and get an argument in there. But no one else then was like keen to be like, oh no, that's not true, that's what actually happened. They were willing to just go along with it and play accomplice, which pissed me off to no end. I'm very angry at every single fucker in that house, quite frankly. And it was... I feel vindicated seeing Spike kind of make, I think, several good points. I don't agree with necessarily what he said to Giles. I feel like that's probably not the case. Maybe subconsciously, but not really. And, you know, fully aware that he's going to have this huge Buffy bias anyway, and he's kind of ignoring the fact that she did have faults as a leader. So it's a complicated situation, and I just... where do I stand? But, you know, they are trying a new leader. She's basically going about it in the same way as Buffy, and people like Kennedy are still just bitching about it. So basically you just can't win. And I'm still rooting for a lot of them to die, quite frankly. So I'm not having that emotional attachment to the final battle, unless it's, you know, the characters that I've known for a while and care about. Because honestly, any of the potentials could die, and I'd be like, shame, and move on. It'd be like that video of that woman, that talk show host. It's like, she passed away. All right, that'd be me. And then the potentials die. I mean, Amanda's nice. She's kind of wholesome, but again, she also kicked Buffy out. You're probably already. It's been a while since the last reaction, isn't it? But you're probably still already sick of me going on about this again. But I think a lot of people were in agreement that kicking her out was wrong, even if. And I do also agree that Buffy didn't go about things perfectly. But is there a perfect way of going about things? No. And I think instantly it's just showing them getting into an argument. And people instantly not being happy with Faith actually taking charge and being a leader, which is the fucking job. Of course, the leader's going to give the orders. It's like, Kennedy, what do you want? What do you fucking want? It's just, it's annoying. But then you have some stuff like the scene with Willow, and I'm like, Kennedy's kind of nice in that scene. I like the idea of her being like the strings to her kite, which is a strange analogy, but I went with it. And I don't know. She's been very forceful of that relationship in the past, and I don't know if that's kind of the same thing with that, if Willow wasn't truly ready. She seemed very keen to just convince her, like, we need to bang. But I don't think Willow ultimately minded in the end, so it is what it is. Yeah, my thoughts are all over the place. I don't know where to even go with it, but the idea of the intimacy, finding someone to be on your side, someone, you know, who can care about you, like with Faith and the Mayor, everything with that. Spike and Buffy, their scenes together. Wood and Faith, Xander and Anya, Kennedy and Willow, all of that kind of going on. And the idea of opposite that, the first being like, oh, well, you know, I want to know what it feels like to snap someone's neck, which isn't not very nice, but kind of still playing into the idea of like the importance of intimacy to people and that closeness versus the fact that this group is very bloody fractured right now. They're all over the place. So the fact that there's some intimacy within a very fractured house is an interesting idea. I liked how they kind of explored that as the theme for this episode. And yeah, seeing Buffy just kind of wander about a bit lost on her own, accepting responsibility. I feel like she put too much of the responsibility on herself for what went down with her getting kicked out. I feel like it wasn't as much of a fault as she thinks it is. But that's just my opinion. Obviously, people can agree and disagree and argue it. There are valid sides for both. But, yeah, just seeing her spirit so broken, and I'm just like angry at them all over again for what they did to her. Like, just let her stay in her own bloody bed, at the very least. But yeah, there I am again, recycling the same complaints. But yeah, I enjoyed the stuff with her because I feel like they're going to get to a point where they're going to be like, well, we need you. And Faith was even like, you know, I don't like that Buffy's not here. I like that. And I think maybe the key difference between, while I do think Faith is leading in a very similar way in terms of like how she handles ideas and shutting them down, I think the idea of like trying to get a bringer and interview them, like get intel from them, that's a very good idea. And Buffy hadn't thought of that, to be fair. So tick for Faith in the Faith column. And I think one of the key differences, perhaps, and why people were more keen to get Faith on board, is that Faith seems to doubt herself as a leader, openly doubt herself as a leader more than Buffy did. And I feel like maybe that attitude that Buffy had, even if she did doubt herself a bit, rubbed people the wrong way. But the core of how they're treating like ideas from other people and stuff, Buffy and Faith are basically exactly the same from what we've seen, because Faith's still just calling all the shots, not really listening to Kennedy's shit ideas because they're shit and she's shit. So yeah, that was kind of interesting. And then a bit of comedy with Spike and Andrew, which I think was kind of needed. I love the dynamic with those two. It really works. Andrew coming back, giving this long speech, not knowing like how tense things really are. The fact that he was then being used through the bringer person to kind of like talk was an interesting concept as well. I liked that whole idea. And an interesting thing that hadn't been considered really, to like what is the first true weakness that we can physically hurt and physically touch. Of course, it's the bringers. That makes sense. And we even saw, you know, Giles very capably took one out in like earlier in the season when he was attacked by one, so it makes sense that they could bring one in. And you know, they did do a capable job of bringing the bringers in, so there's still some skill there from the potentials, so good. But I suppose that's when they were setting the trap, and you know, Buffy was like, oh, let's go to the vineyard, there must be something there for sure. And everyone's like, get out of your own house, bitch. And then Faith's like, the next day, okay, we've slept on it, let's go to the vineyard and see what's clearly there. And they're like, yes, Faith, that's a great idea. Oh no, there's a bomb. So people are going to be in danger either way. Hopefully this is the wake-up call. Like, no matter what, you are going to be in danger. Like, they just think, like, oh, now Faith's in charge, the first are going to morph into Care Bears and we can just, like, grind them into nothingness and take them out really easily. Like, they're still going to be the first, they're still going to be cruel and awful. But yeah, interesting differences between those two as leaders. And there are pros and cons for both sides is what I'm trying to get across, even if I'm, like, team hashtag let Buffy sleep in her own bed. Faith has had some positive influences, but also led everyone to a bomb at the end there, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully Faith can bloody leg it, because she was the one who's closest to it. I suppose that was sort of a diversion for the actual treasure that they were guarding, I guess, that Buffy very cleverly worked out. But it is interesting, like, once Buffy has been kind of outcast a bit and is on her own, she very capably achieves what they set out to do in the first place. It's almost as if the potentials are dragging her down a bit. Maybe the bringers are onto something with the stabby. But either way, some interesting stuff with that. And I liked Faith speaking to the first and being aware of, you know, she knows who they are, but she's still kind of conversing with them and being affected and influenced by them like they are the mayor. Because that's such a huge deal to her when she was so lost and alone before. You know, she kind of leant on the mayor for that, and he's just planting seeds in her head again. Could be absolutely making bullshit up about, you know, be wary of Buffy, she's dangerous. You know, that's probably the first just talking to a mirror, because they know that Buffy's the big danger to them. And I assume that's going to be a very powerful weapon or whatever that Buffy found, the axe kind of thing. So that could be a key thing to stopping the first somehow, or maybe like hitting one of the first phantomy things with that, makes them corporeal. I don't know. Maybe she can just cut Caleb's head off with it. That would probably be nice as well. But yeah, it was cool, like, at a moment where Faith is absolutely going to doubt herself more than ever before, being in this leadership role. The first appears to her and chooses this time to do it when she's at her most emotionally vulnerable, probably for the first time since, you know, that all kicked off way back when with the mayor, because she doesn't have Angel around to kind of patch her up like when season 4 of Buffy happened, you know. So yeah, then you have the mayor again presenting himself to her, telling her that, oh, you know, you're always going to be thought as a killer. It was like the video he left her in season 4, like, well, you know, without me around, Faith, your time's just running out. It felt like a similar kind of vibe that you were getting from him in that scene, and it was cool to see the actor again. He's very good at that part, and he feels so natural at it as well. It's an interesting balance of like the lightheartedness, and he does feel like, oh, if you had him as like a teacher at school, but oh, he's one of my favourite teachers, he's really nice, but in reality he has a murder basement. He manages to get that across in his performance so brilliantly. It's kind of a hell of a thing. So I'm glad they kind of could bring him back when Faith was around as well, because of everything with those two, the past there. So yeah, I wonder exactly how things would have gone, because the fact that Faith was like, oh, I can deal with vampires, demons, all that, you know, not even a sweat, but she saw them out again, counting first like that, and she was like shaking and stuff. That was really interesting to see that effect it's having on Faith. And it just makes, again, the threat seem all the more real and interesting and palpable, that Faith can be broken by them just by taking the form of someone she once considered to be like a father to her. So that was really interesting. I loved everything with that, and I wonder how she would have responded and how things would have gone the next day if Wood hadn't turned up to kind of check on her and talk to her. And then from there they bonded. I really liked the scenes with them in the last episode, I think it was. There just seemed to be like something, like a spark and connection there, and there literally was this time. Hey, I think they just work so well, and the fact they bonded through like, oh yeah, I saw one of my parents, my parental figure through the first as well when I saw them. That was that bond for them. And they're two people who grew up in the world of the Slayer and the life of the Slayer, but also not really, because, you know, either their mother, the Slayer, was killed, they were raised by a Watcher or whatever, Faith's parents, you know, ultimately didn't really raise her that much, and her Watcher then was killed, and everything that happened in season 3 of Buffy wasn't like the conventional journey of the Slayer, for sure. So it makes sense that I think those two would be drawn together, because they have had very similar journeys up to this point, and even to the extent that the first kind of influences them with similar like faces in terms of what these people would mean to them. So yeah, I'm not mad that they hooked up. I think that's a pretty interesting couple. I like that a lot. Even if Faith was very cold with him the next morning, but, you know, probably doesn't want to get too attached to a guy who could easily die in this final battle. And, you know, I mean, she slept with Xander in season 3. Next thing you know, right, bye, kicking you out while you're not even dressed yet. So yeah, just that insecurity that Faith is showing, it's come a long way that she's so open about that now. She's always, I think, very, very insecure about herself, but she put on the show, you know, oh, I dumped the body, I don't care. But deep down we kind of knew she really did care that she killed that guy. Now she's more open and honest about it, so I love that they're showcasing how much she's changed through that. That was all very well and good. I really love Spike in this episode. I liked him coming to Buffy's defense. Again, he's very biased, so I don't agree with literally everything he was saying, but it did feel nice to be like, oh, you traitorous assholes, you ungrateful bastards. And I was like, yes, I agree. That was kind of a punch to the air moment for me. And then his little speech to Buffy, I was like, you know, I've lived a long life, and if there's anything he like believes in, has faith in, it's her. I was like, it's Buffy feelings. It just makes me sad, because like that's what their relationship could have been like in season 6 if Buffy weren't in such a bad place and kind of used him, and he weren't a soulless evil demon. But now, you know, could you ever really revisit that, even if things had changed so much between them? I don't know. That would be an interesting thing. But just to see, you know, you go from season 2 Spike to now, and you see how he talks about Buffy. It's really quite something, and I love that whole sequence. It's probably my favourite scene of the episode, when he kind of sat Buffy down like, now you listen to me, you are wonderful, I am your #1 stan. And again, it was interesting that I feel like one of the most intimate scenes of the episode wasn't all those couples having sex, it was Buffy and Spike just like cuddling there. That felt much more intimate to me than any of the other kind of scenes, because I guess there's a lot more history there between all those pairings, probably with the exception of Xander and Anya, but they were just making out on the kitchen floor. It's not exactly, you know, classiest of things. But I also love the scene of those two eating ice cream, just hearing everyone. That was fantastic. So yeah, maybe there is hope for Xander and Anya as well. That'd be good, please. So yeah, I enjoyed the intimacy behind the Spike and Buffy stuff, very emotionally driven, really great performances by them both as well. And it's just that kind of spark that, there was a few moments like that with them in season 6. It was kind of nice to see that, and the healthy aspect of their relationship in season 6 is still around. I like that, because we kind of removed the not so great stuff that happened in season 6. So I can't remember what episode it was or anything, but they were just like having a normal conversation between them, just laughing together during a scene in season 6. And then I think Buffy almost like caught herself just enjoying a conversation with him, and like made an excuse to leave or something like that. And it kind of felt similar to that. And how the Buffy and Spike scene felt very similar to the Wooden Faith scene. There's similar vibes going on with that. And then the Willow and Kennedy scene as well. One of them kind of supporting the other, bringing them back into the light. And yeah, just kind of giving them the intimacy that they're craving, but also potentially afraid of. Because obviously Buffy has that history with Spike. She's just been betrayed by basically everyone she really cares about. She may not want to get too close again. Willow's scared of getting intimate with anyone in case she loses control. And Faith, it had been, a very long time since she'd been with anyone. That's probably quite a nervous thing to go through as well. And she's still doubting herself as a leader and everything. And the first certainly didn't help, kind of putting all those ideas about Buffy into her head and saying, oh, you're always going to be a killer and stuff, but she's kind of moved past that. And, Buffy it doesn't like Faith, but I don't know if it comes down to that extent, like the first trying to make it out, they're just trying to get in Faith's head. So all those kind of the parallels between those different pairings throughout the episode I thought was really interesting and very well done, very well written. So yeah, I liked everything with that. And then the kind of contrast with that, with Caleb in the first kind of talking, and the first, like the big thing they have, well, the big thing they can't do versus everyone else, they can't touch anything. So they can manipulate people, manipulate events, manipulate emotions, but they can't physically hurt people. They have to get people to do it for them, like Caleb or the Bringers. So the fact that so much of this episode was about, touching people physically or emotionally, physical or emotional intimacy, and that's one thing the first aren't capable of, is really interesting, something that sets them apart. Potentially could be a reason why Buffy ultimately wins the fight, hopefully, and if they get her back on the team, even if they don't make her leader again, be like, well, you need to join the fight with us again, instead of just casting her out. So I thought that kind of stuff was interesting as well. Caleb's determination to keep Buffy away, and Buffy, yeah, again, it was interesting that she just seemed so much more capable just on her own, facing Caleb there. Obviously she's been on her own before with him already, like in the school, and she got her ass handed to her. There was just something, she seemed a bit more liberated after that intimacy with Spike, I guess, and just, Spike's speech was kind of saying, look, I'm on your side, and then she physically kind of wanted him there by her side, and when she kind of fell asleep with that reminder physically next to her and woke up and he was still there, someone was still on her side, even after, all that time. Maybe that gave her some kind of renewed sense of strength and purpose. Well, if at least one person believes in me, maybe I should believe in myself. And they went forward in that and managed to trick Caleb. That was very cool, getting him to throw all these barrels at her and destroy the wine, the poor wine. Damn, the true tragedy of season 7. And then that left the gap open for her to jump into. Very cleverly done, I liked that. And I'm looking forward to seeing them explore exactly what that weapon's going to do and what it means. Clearly not good things for Caleb in the first, because they've been guarding it, protecting it. So yes, I'm intrigued to see where that's all going to go. And yeah, I think that's basically everything I wanted to touch on. But there felt like a lot going on in this episode, but I do feel like every character kind of got their due. And as frustrating as it is, and annoying as it is how some of the characters acted throughout, and every single character at least did at least one thing in this episode that was like, no, but regardless, you can't help but love them, and I guess that's just down to the writing and the acting and stuff, even if they do stupid, shitty things to people, and each other, which is never going to help. They're still, you're still kind of very much on their side. I like to think I do see all sides of the equation, but I'm definitely more so on Team Buffy with this one. And yeah, we'll see what happens in the next 2 episodes. I don't know what to expect, but we do have this glimmer of hope now. I think Spike also instilled that hope in Buffy, and then the plot of the season also gained a bit of hope because Buffy's got hands on this weapon, and like finally maybe something tangible that we can actually use against the First, finally. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. But overall, another very solid episode. I look forward to seeing what's going to happen in the final two. But yeah, that's actually, I know this is only the second of this current Buffyverse cycle of reactions, but we're actually going to end this cycle here, because we need to hold off on the last two episodes for Buffy finale week, when they'll be happening very, very soon, kicking off on the 29th of March for YouTube. The YouTube cut of episode 21 will be up then, and then week of different kind of reactions, and then on Friday the 2nd of April, Buffy ends on YouTube. But if you're a patron on Patreon, you'll be getting the episodes as soon as I watch them, basically. So by the end of the month, you'll have them. Probably within the next week, you'll have them, quite frankly. Because I have Walking Dead to do tomorrow, so I can't film it tomorrow. But Monday and Tuesday, I should finish Buffy on Tuesday. So probably by Tuesday or Wednesday at the earliest, at the time of me uploading this for people watching it. So for those people who may be watching this in the past, that will be about 4 days from now. Buffy will be completed on Patreon, so you guys will get it a week or so before YouTube, probably a bit more than a week. But either way, journey's coming to an end, guys. Scary, sad, but exciting. And yeah, another very solid episode, some really great stuff in there. I like the idea of the intimacy and the differences between that, the pros and cons of it. Really interesting idea. So yeah, that's going to be everything, and until my next reaction, thanks for watching.